Hello everyone, my name is Saklapi Paisanan. Today, I would like to present my work with Yasha Morfeki and Frank Pollock, Neural Correlates of Realization of Satisfaction in a Successful Search Process. This presentation is organized in the following structure: Introduction, Background, Research Question, Method, Result, and Conclusion and Future Work. The satisfaction of an information needs is considered as a fundamental concept in information retrieval. There are a number of behavioral models that attempt to explain the information search behavior of a searcher during information search activities. At the early stage of the information search, a searcher usually lacks enough information to complete a task, and they want to engage a search system in order to gather information that's relevant to the task. At the final stage of the search, after performing iterations of gathering relevant information, the searcher have all the information that they need. They then express the satisfaction of their information needs by stopping their search to complete the task. A decision-making process can be used to explain the information-seeking behavior, as an individual will gather pieces of information until the information reaches a decision threshold, and they then terminate a search. A number of information retrieval studies have been conducted to understand the phenomenon of satisfaction by using implicit measures such as dwell time and click-through, and also explicit measures, for example, self-report judgments. But what is really happening to the internal state of searcher when their information needs is being satisfied? Recently, there is an emerging field in information retrieval called neurosearch. The field utilizes the use of neuroimaging techniques to investigate the brain activity of a searcher behavior during search activity. The previous works in the field attempted to understand the connection between complex concepts in information retrieval, such as information need and relevant judgment, and brain activity using various neuroimaging techniques. For example, a collection of fMRI studies by Morfeki and his colleagues has focused on using fMRI to understand the brain regions activated during relevant judgment and information need. Results from one study revealed that the brain regions are activated during the process of making relevant judgment. Another study indicated that an information need was reflected by brain process associated with the switching between internal and external information source. Apart from the use of fMRI, other studies have applied different brain measurement techniques to investigate information retrieval concepts, especially relevant. For example, MEG and EEG has been applied in several studies to investigate the concept of relevant to text information. In this study, we create a research question to understand brain regions involved to the realization of satisfaction of an information need as: what are the brain regions corresponding to the realization of satisfaction in a successful search process? To answer the research question, we use an fMRI technique to capture brain signals of participants while performing an information search task. The fMRI provides better spatial resolution of the brain signal compared with other imaging techniques. However, fMRI study requires a specific experimental paradigm which is different from other behavioral study in information retrieval. We then have to develop an experimental task that can demonstrate the possibility of simulating an information-seeking process and was suitable for an fMRI study. The task developed was based on a puzzle idea where participants need to gather pieces of information by viewing each individual pieces of an image. We first need to create a set of stimuli for the experiment. A set of images was selected from the Microsoft Common Objects in Context dataset. The dataset provides a large set of images and a list of captions for each image. We then use three criteria in selecting the set of images, including an image had to be non-iconic and display everyday scenes. An image had to contain at least two objects and could not be easily matched to a caption by one small portion of the image. And the caption for an image was effortless to understand and describe more than one object appearing in the image. We then conducted a behavioral study to make sure that the set of images were sufficiently difficult enough for the participants to view multiple times before answering the question. In this behavioral study, 25 participants were recruited. The task was to answer whether the caption matched to the collection of tiles or not. In the task, the participants were presented with a question, and this was followed by a random order of tiles, which was presented one at a time. The participants were instructed to press a button to indicate their information need was satisfied. We selected 50 potential images that were moderately difficult, which were primarily around the mean of 4 or 5 tries to recognize that the caption matched the image. We also need to generate appropriate sequences for presentation of the tiles for each image. 3 assessors were recruited to rate relevance of each tile of an image using a 3-point scale. 0 means not relevant, 1 means somewhat relevant, and 2 means very relevant. We then generate a predetermined sequence for each image by sorting the tiles from least relevant tiles to the most relevant tiles. For the fMRI study, we use a within-subject design. The independent variables were satisfaction of the information need and validation of the answer. Satisfaction means the time when participants were able to match the caption and the image, and validation is the time when participants confirm that the response was correct. The dependent variable was the brain activity revealed by the fMRI blood oxygen level dependent signals. In the fMRI study, we examined brain activity of 26 participants including 16 females and 10 males. All participants were under the age of 43 and on average 25 years old. All participants were typically developed and at least 18 years old. They were right-handed and had a normal or corrected to normal vision. However, we have to exclude 9 participants from the analysis because 6 of them has excessive head motion. 2 of them did not correctly follow the instruction, and 1 of them demonstrated poor performance. So we have 17 participants for our final analysis. Ethical permission was obtained to conduct the experiment from the Ethics Committee of the College of Science and Engineering, University of Glasgow. A pilot study was conducted to ensure that the experimental procedure worked smoothly as expected. Before conducting the actual experiment, the participants were instructed and given a training session. And also, after finished the experiment, the participants were asked to complete exit questions in order to provide demographic and qualitative description of their experience towards the experiment. For the experimental task, the participants were first presented with a question followed by a sequence of tiles. The question was to decide whether the caption was appropriate to the image shown as a sequence of tiles or not. While image tiles were being presented to the participants, they were asked to press a button as soon as they noticed that the caption was appropriate to the image. After pressing the button, the full image would be shown to the participants, and they were asked to press a button again if the response provided earlier was correct. For our data analysis, the fMRI data collected for each participant were pre-processed following the fMRI standard pipeline, including slide scan time correction using trilinear interpolation, three-dimensional motion correction, linear trend in the data were removed, co-register with the anatomic data and normalize it in MNI space, spatial smoothing using a Gaussian kernel. We then performed a contrast of brain activity between the moment of satisfaction and the moment of validation. We use for discovery rate at a threshold of Q less than 0.05. The results, based on 17 participants, show that 4 of 5 clusters had higher activation during the moment of satisfaction. This includes right insula and superior frontal gyrus, as well as left anterior cingulate and posterior cingulate cortex. These regions were more active when the participants indicated satisfaction than when they validated their response. Also, the results show only one cluster that had higher activation during the moment of validation, which was the right posterior cingulate. The results of the cluster that had higher activation during the moment of satisfaction indicated an association with high cognitive function such as memory retrieval and decision making, and the satisfaction of the information need. Also, the activation in the insula could indicate a low of effective processing and salient network, which is potentially involved in the identification of stimulus properties of behavioral relevance. The activation of the ventral region of the right posterior cingulate, which had higher activation when the participants validated their answer, can be associated with the default mode network. This region has been reported to be involved in various cognitive functions, including confident judgment, integrating memory, and information processing. The right ventral posterior cingulate has been also associated with scene processing. In this study, we found four regions that associate with satisfaction. The regions are consistent with the involvement of both cognitive and affective process at the moment of satisfaction. The frontal and cingulate region could indicate a general-purpose role in cognitive processing during search process, and the insula region could indicate affective processing during search process. Future research should examine in more detail brain activity during information search to disentangle the cognitive and affective aspect of search. In addition, more systematic application of reverse inference could provide greater insight into the psychological function that related to each brain region. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention.